Governor Cuomo said that he has never propositioned anybody. Do you believe that he was propositioning you?
Yes.
For what?
Sex.
That was Charlotte Bennett. Charlotte Bennett was formerly Governor Cuomo's executive assistant and a health policy advisor, which, considering other Governor Cuomo related scandals in the news, is an amazing bit of political symmetry there. She did a sit-down interview with Norah O'Donnell. Now, we've known quite a bit about the accusations against Governor Cuomo, but there is always something powerful about seeing someone speak about their experiences, and so we want to show you a bit from that interview.
You think all this national attention may have emboldened him?
Absolutely. I think he felt like he was untouchable in a lot of ways.
Bennett says their professional relationship took a turn on May 15th when she alleges the governor started asking her about her love life and then became fixated, repeating over and over again her history as a sexual assault survivor.
So he goes, "You were raped. You were raped. You were raped and abused and assaulted."
Another key encounter happened on June 5th when Bennett says she was called into Cuomo's office to take dictation, and he told her to turn off the tape recorder.
And then he explains at that point that he is looking for a girlfriend. He's lonely, he's tired.
You've just finished dictation, and the governor is telling you he's lonely and looking for a relationship.
Yes. He asked if I had trouble enjoying being with someone because of my trauma.
This seems highly inappropriate.
Yeah. The governor asked me if I was sensitive to intimacy.
In his office?
Yes. During the workday.
You have been quoted as saying that he also asked you about if you'd ever been with an older man.
Yeah. He asked me if age difference mattered. He also explained that he was fine with anyone over 22.
And how old are you?
25.
Wow, so similar in some ways to some of the other allegations against him, but also going very hard into that, focusing on her past traumatic experiences while producing a new one. What are your thoughts?
I think that what is very revealing, at least, what we know so far about these allegations and the various women who have come forward with, very similar circumstances, is that, with the exception of one detail that I've read, this doesn't seem to be about violating touch. And I feel like certain spaces, specifically with like Me Too literacy and like understandings of, power dynamics and harassment and violation. I watched, especially when I was EIC at Jez, this, I don't like this phrase, so I'm quoting, but like this Me Too moment. Sort of landing in this, hypersensitive terrain of like not touching, not hugging, not leaning, this very like thin protective measure by which, very powerful people, mostly powerful men, can like secure their positions and their money without like young women coming forward to say that, somebody leaned in too close to them. But I think that with Cuomo and what Bennett has shared about her experiences, this is very tactful in the sense that you're talking about taking down somebody's boundaries who is considerably less powerful than you, trying to gauge, where there are openings by which you can manipulate them in professional settings. And, more specifically, I think that there's a lot of like tact there. I think that a frustration that myself and a number of other journalists who I've worked with throughout my career have felt, specifically around news cycles of sexual harassment and assault and violation, is that in some ways, powerful organizations, powerful people, they're able to sort of adapt with the times in terms of the rhetoric they use, and then also, fund measures like NDAs that make sure that they can't like talk about anything that happened. And yet, the actual power dynamics at the core, by which like your boss can call you in to do dictation and then ask you in this roundabout way to like potentially be his mistress, and if that's like appealing to you while you're sitting there with your work, the dynamics that are at the core of that have not necessarily changed. What I'm often hearing when there are cases like this is that we've built in a sort of like cultural framework by which you can skirt those same dynamics and perhaps, prey on a young woman or a young man who, doesn't have as much power as you in an organization, and yet still be able to say that you didn't touch them, that you didn't break any rules, that you were just mentoring them, which we've heard Cuomo say in this case. And so I think that's really pertinent that when it comes to, Bennett, and I think a few other women, we're not necessarily talking about violating touch. And I think that should really be top of mind for people as they're interpreting this story.
Yeah, so a couple of things here. First of all, Cuomo has not denied any of the specifics. So he has said a generic statement about, if he defended people with joking around, then he's sorry for that. But this is not joking around. It's in the most advantageous framing for Cuomo, which I don't agree with. It was flirting, right? And I know that a lot of guys out there, especially from the old school, are like, okay, he asked and it didn't work out, right? No, guys, you can't do that in a work environment. So it's one thing if you think you're flirting, although none of that sounded like flirting to me. I mean, asking her about her sexual assaults, Jesus Christ, what are you doing, right? And so, but you certainly cannot do it in an office context. And when you're the boss and he's making it so clear, I will have sex with anyone over the age of 22. Oh, how old are you? You're over 22. Golly gee, right? I mean, it's so obvious. And again, he hasn't denied it. And so, look, all of this is bad enough. It's all layered on top of one another, right? So one of them is that shocks me is the abruptness of it. To me, that signals arrogance. And what I'm worried about is it signals I'm worried how many times has he done this? What results has it produced? Because when you come into a person you barely know, and she just started working there. So I've read the whole story, we've covered it in the past. And you just come in with like, basically, I'm your boss. I just told you to turn off the tape. I barely know you. And do you want to, and I want to talk to you about sex. And are you willing to have sex with older men? Wow, like the people do that. That's unbelievable to me. And look, there's just every part of it is wrong. If you've got somebody working for you who's a sexual assault survivor, you don't bring that up in a way that is massively uncomfortable, right? If you've known each other for a long time and that person brings it up and wants to talk about it, you could do that in a respectful way, but this ain't it. And she didn't bring it up, you brought it up, and you brought it up in the context of sex, not in the context of abuse. It's just, I don't know, every part of it is really bad. Yeah.
Well, I think, Cenk, a good point that you bring up with this is when I hear these questions and what Bennett has recalled, to me, it sounds like he's trying to extract consent from her. Have you ever thought about sex with an older man? Have you ever thought about he's trying to, at least is what it sounds like to me, like make her an active participant in this predatory behavior. And to me, that signals a kind of awareness for what he's doing. He's not trying to be physically forceful with her, at least not in that instance that she's decided to share publicly. So I think, again, it's the power dynamic that is really grotesque here, in that clearly that's being sanitized in that, he's calling her into his office and asking, but truthfully, if you're a junior woman and a powerful man calls you into his office and wills your consent for something, is it actually consensual? And I think that's an important takeaway from this story.
Yeah, and sometimes I explain it from the context of different groups, conservatives, older generations, etc., because there's different cultural contexts, and I want to be able to communicate to everyone, not just the progressives. So, guys, it's a lot of people react to this with like, "What? Hey, we're not allowed to have an office romance." No, actually, you are allowed to have an office romance, but yet there are very understandable guidelines for it. Very, very understandable. Like you should be able to get that pretty easily, right? And so when, let's say Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski eventually got married, right? And they had some sort of relationship, and it was perfectly consensual, and they did it all the right way. So don't let people trick you into false analogies, okay? That is not this. This is a very senior person who's the boss of everyone in the building with a very junior employee. They barely know each other, and he blunders into a sex conversation, which now there's 2 women who accuse him of that at the office, 1 at a wedding. The 3rd accuser does not work with him, but he put her hands on her face in a way that made her super uncomfortable. The first employee says that he did try to kiss her. So it's like Koa said, it feels like he's trying to figure out what his sense of the boundaries are and get right up to the edge of it. And so, yeah, and look, it's not cute, and that kind of playing with the boundaries like that isn't working. Your intent seems clear.
Yeah. Koa?
I was gonna say, I think another good point coming off of what Cenk said is that if you are working in analogies, I mean, as far as I know, Mika and Joe are peers. I mean, they are both, household names and have immediate recognition, and so that seems to bring about, to me on the outside, like very different interpersonal dynamics than, again, a very junior employee being summoned into a boss's office. That is a very specific predatory dynamic versus a actual colleague who you collaborate with and who is a peer, at least as far as we can tell from the outside.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.